Hi there, I'm Raoul Fernandes. I'm a poet in East Vancouver. I'm here to read you some poems. I'd like to thank David Barrick for inviting me to do this for Poetry London. It's nice to be able to connect with you guys through this way. Because I always have trouble picking out the poems for a reading, I thought I would check with Twitter to see if they had some requests. So some people tweeted at me with some poems they'd like me to read. So I'll do those, but before that I'll read an old poem that isn't in my book, that didn't fit because it's set in Dubai in my childhood, and none of the other poems in my book are set there. It's an animal poem. It's called The Mouse in the Bucket. I caught white moths with my brother in the desert shrubbery near my first house in Dubai. White dust on our fingers, white dust in the jar. They bled yellow if I pressed their bodies too hard. It was easier to touch creatures back then. My father caught a wild green parrot. It had a broken wing and was sitting under our parked car. We put it in the large outdoor cage with the lovebirds, and the next day we found it had killed 6 of them. But the lovebirds had a habit of killing each other anyway. Mother gutted fish in the kitchen. She showed me an egg sack. She showed me, on the tip of her finger, a tiny crab she found inside a stomach. I flicked the tails off the sandy lizards that skittered over our bedroom walls. I watched the tails jump around on the floor. Our dog BJ whined under the table when we blew the harmonica or the old copper horn. At school we crowded around a hatchling that fell from a nest. Zia scooped it up and ran with it. We ran after him, yelling. What was he planning to do? What were we? The Jungle Book, The Secret of Nim, The Wind in the Willows. I wanted to fix the broken wings of sparrows, and then the sparrows would love me and take my good name to the rest of the bird kingdom. I would approach a sparrow in the grass, hoping for it to be injured. When I hear thunder, I still think of the old lion at the Dubai Public Zoo, and how we knew no matter where we were in the zoo when it was his feeding time. My father chased a camel around the house. I ran behind him laughing. My sister forgot to fill the hamster's water. We carried it out into the desert and dug a hole in the sand. The angelfish got stuck in the aquarium pump. BJ's heart stopped with me kneeling beside him. He started coughing, and I knew in that moment he was going to die. I caught a mouse and filled the bucket with water and watched it swim in circles until it gave up and sank, and for this I ask forgiveness, even now, from the lords of the rodent kingdom. Okay, so I'll read some poems from my book. It's called Transmitter and Receiver. The first poem was requested by Michael Edwards, and I'll take the chance to note that he has a wonderful website where he's getting new poems from poets, and I have some new work there too if you want to check it out. It's called the Red Alder Review. And the poem he requested is called Automatic Teller, and it imagines an ATM machine with consciousness. Automatic Teller. The fast cash ATM wonders why the woman looks so sad when it prints out pale numbers on a small piece of paper, after she clearly pressed yes when offered a receipt. Wonders if this is some personal narrative it is not privy to. Through its built-in camera, the ATM's limited view is the lower half of a streetlight pole, a newspaper box updated daily, a laundromat across the road with lopsided hanging fluorescent lights. I'd print something better if I could, it thinks. Fortune cookie ribbons, or the inverse of every news headline. I'd generate some music if I had more than one tone. Crush that little paper, it wants to say. Throw it into the air behind you. From these winter blossoms, our city will know something better has to be dreamed up. Go along now. There is another waiting behind you, clutching his coat, in all this cold swirling data, dreaming something too. Okay. The next poem was requested by someone named Tawaham, and they wanted me to dedicate it to Tawaham and Billy Nickerson. Billy, I don't know if you were part of this, but here's a poem for you. It's called Loop. And it imagines, it takes the idea of Saturn's rings being formed by a shattered moon. Loop. Believe it. Saturn ringed for centuries by her own shattered moon. Nowhere she can look without seeing it. How often she tries to will off her own gravity and send the pieces out into the dark elsewhere, but knows she can't or won't. What becomes her halo, a prayer wheel, memory-laden hula hoop, spell-spun and perpetually dizzy. Some early morning, a neighbor coasts by, says beautiful day, and it takes all she can to look around her and believe it. This is a poem for Kayla Zaga. I think I know she has a video too at Poetry London, so you should check that out. She's a fine poet. It's called Bear-Like Creatures That Came Out of Nowhere. I woke up, made some calls. James came over. We drew the dark curtains closed, smoked up, and played video games. He destroyed me, then I destroyed him, and then he destroyed me, and then he destroyed me again. Sandra called and talked to James on the phone while I tried to read the newspaper. And before hanging up, he said, "Take care, baby. Real small and quiet. Translation, you destroy me." He put on that album, and it was like icebergs calving into the sea. I couldn't understand most of the newspaper. My little sister, Alexis, ran into the room dressed as a ladybug and hugged my arm, and her pipe cleaner antenna brushed my cheek, and it sort of destroyed me. James and I smoked another one and played another game. This time we were both destroyed by bear-like creatures that came out of nowhere. They fed on us right there in the game's misted forest. Total destruction, and the screen faded to black, and I started to feel faint. So I got up and stepped over to the window, drew the curtains in one fast movement, and the sunlight tore right through me, and James said, "What?" And I just stood there a while, looking at the red leaves coming off the trees, and waited for the light to finish what it had started. All right, this is the last poem, and it was requested by Shazia, another fine poet. Her book is called Port of Being. And it's called Attachments. It's imagining photos being sent, after a party, say. James smoking marijuana through a potato pipe.jpg. Light-smeared ghosts on the green couch.jpg. This kid nobody knows wearing the puffiest jacket ever, and we all call him Little Lion, which he seems to like.jpg. Mary's shoulders high in the room.jpg. Jake playing Wish You Were Here on my guitar for the 1,000th time, and all of us really want him to stop.jpg. Storytelling in the greenhouse.jpg. This is why Evelyn left.jpg. Sunset past the power lines.jpg. Post-sunset, crows flying eastward.jpg. Someone borrowed my camera and took pictures of my Siamese fighting fish, 6 of 18.jpg. This amazing spread of food, my cup runneth over, etc., etc.jpg. Headphones on a deer skull.jpg. Damien in midair.jpg. My dog Cody sleeping on the balcony, surrounded by long legs going up forever.jpg. Alicia gives me this look that always makes me wonder if this will be the last picture of her.jpg. Colin in a skirt sweeping up beer bottle glass.jpg. Okay, that's it. Thank you for listening if you've made it this far into it. I hope this finds you safe and happy and healthy. Take care.